Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen? Why is that? Why do you say no? What does claim mean? Have you ever registered to vote or voted in any federal, state, or local election in the United States? What does vote mean? What is register to vote? Explain federal. What does local mean? Do you currently owe any overdue federal, state, or local taxes in the United States? What is taxes? What does owe taxes mean? Explain overdue taxes. Since you became a lawful permanent resident, have you called yourself a non-resident alien on a federal, state, or local tax return, or decided not to file a tax return because you considered yourself to be a non-resident? What does non-resident mean? What is an alien? What does file a tax return mean? Have you paid your taxes since you became a green card holder? Have you always filed your taxes? Have you ever failed to pay your taxes? Have you ever failed to file taxes? Do you pay taxes every year? Do you owe any back taxes? Did you bring your tax return? Tax return transcripts? Have you ever been in a mental hospital or mental institution? What is mental hospital? Have you ever been a member of, involved in, or in any way associated with any communist or totalitarian party anywhere in the world? What does involve in mean? Explain the word totalitarian. What does Communist Party mean? Opposition to all organized government. World communism. What does opposition mean? What is a government? The establishment in the United States of a totalitarian dictatorship. What does dictatorship mean? The overthrow by force or violence or other unconstitutional means of the government of the United States or all forms of law. What does overthrow mean? Could you explain unconstitutional means? The unlawful assaulting or killing of any officer or officers of the government of the United States or of any other organized government. What does assault mean? Could you explain the meaning of government officer?
Sabotage. Give me the definition of the word sabotage. Have you ever used weapon or explosive with intent to harm another person or cause damage to property? Have you ever used weapons to force someone to do something that they did not want to do?
What does weapon mean? What does explosive mean? What does property mean? Have you ever engaged or participated in kidnapping, assassination, or hijacking or sabotage of an airplane, ship, vehicle, or other mode of transportation?
What does kidnapping mean? What does assassination mean? What does hijacking mean?
Have you ever threatened, attempted, conspired, prepared, planned, advocated for, or incited others to commit any of the acts listed? What does attempt mean? What does threaten mean? What does conspired mean? What does incite mean? Have you ever ordered, incited, called for, committed, assisted, helped with, or otherwise participated in any of the following? What does order mean? What does commit mean? Torture? Genocide? Killing or trying to kill any person? What does torture mean? What does genocide mean? What is to kill? Have you ever intentionally and severely injured or tried to injure any person? What does injure mean? Have you ever had any kind of sexual contact or activity with any person who did not consent or was unable to consent, or was being forced or threatened by you or by someone else? What does consent mean? What does did not consent mean? What does unable to consent mean? Have you ever persecuted anyone because of race, religion? What does persecute mean? Have you ever not let someone practice their religion? What does religion mean? Can you explain to me what is freedom of religion? Have you ever caused harm or suffering to any person because of their race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion? What does opinion mean? What is the definition of the word origin? Have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted, or participated in any military or police unit? What does participated mean? What does assist mean? What does military mean?
Have you ever served in, been a member of, assisted, or participated in any armed group, for example, paramilitary unit, self-defense unit, vigilante unit, rebel group, or guerrilla group? Have you ever been member of a gang?
What does armed group mean? What does paramilitary unit mean? What does self-defense unit mean? What does vigilante unit mean? What does rebel group mean? What does guerrilla group mean? Have you ever worked, volunteered, or otherwise served in a place where people were detained? For example, a prison, jail, prison camp, where prisoner of war or political prisoners are kept, detention facility or labor camp, or have you ever directed or participated in any other activity that involved detaining people?
What does detain mean? What does prison camp mean? What is a detention facility? How about labor camp? What is a gang?
Have you ever been a member of any organized group or association? Could you define association? Were you ever a part of any group? Or did you ever help any group, unit, or organization that used a weapon against any person or threatened to do so? What does threaten mean?
Have you ever sold, provided, or transported weapons, or assisted any person in selling, providing, or transporting weapons, which you knew or believed would be used against another person? What does sell mean? What does provide mean? What does transport mean? Have you ever received any weapons training, paramilitary training, or other military-type training? What does paramilitary training mean?
Have you ever recruited, enlisted, conscripted, or used any person under 15 years of age to serve in or help an armed group, or attempted or worked with others to do so? What does recruit mean? What does enlist mean? What does conscript mean? What does arm mean? Have you ever used any person under 15 years of age to take part in hostilities, or attempted or worked with others to do so? This could include participating in combat or providing services related to combat, such as serving as a messenger or transporting supplies.
What does hostility mean? What does combat mean? Have you ever committed, agreed to commit, asked someone else to commit, helped commit, or tried to commit a crime or offense for which you were not arrested? What does crime mean? What does offense mean? What does commit mean? Tell me, what is arrest? Have you ever been arrested, cited, detained, or confined by any law enforcement officer, military official, or immigration official for any reason, or been charged with a crime or offense? What does arrested mean? What does cited mean? What does confined mean?
If you received a suspended sentence, were placed on probation, or were paroled. Have you completed your suspended sentence, probation, or parole?
I never receive a suspended sentence, probation, or parole.
What does suspend sentence mean? What does probation mean? What does parole mean? Have you ever engaged in prostitution, attempted to procure or import prostitutes or persons for the purpose of prostitution, or received any proceeds or money from prostitution?
What does prostitution mean? What does procure mean? What does prostitutes mean?
Have you ever manufactured, cultivated, produced, distributed, dispensed, sold, or smuggled any controlled substances, illegal drugs, narcotics, or drug paraphernalia in violation of any law or regulation of a U.S. state, the United States, or a foreign country?
What does manufacture mean? What does cultivate mean? What does smuggle mean? What does illegal drugs mean?
Have you ever been married to more than one person at the same time? Do you practice polygamy? Do you believe in polygamy? What is polygamy? Have you married someone in order to obtain an immigration benefit? What does immigration benefit mean?
Have you ever helped anyone or an alien to enter, or try to enter the United States illegally? What does illegally mean? What is the definition of the word enter? Have you ever gambled illegally or received income from illegal gambling?
What does gambling mean?
Have you ever failed to support your dependents or to pay alimony? Failed to support your dependents, pay child support, or to pay alimony, court-ordered financial support after divorce or separation. What does alimony mean? What is child support? What does dependent mean? Have you ever made any misrepresentation to obtain any public benefit in the United States? What does misrepresentation mean? What does public benefit mean? Have you ever given any U.S. government officials any information or documentation that was false, fraudulent, or misleading? What does false mean? What does fraudulent mean? What does misleading mean?
Have you ever lied to any U.S. government officials to gain entry or admission into the United States or to gain immigration benefits while in the United States? What does lie mean? What does entry mean? What does gain admission mean? Do you now have, or did you ever have, a hereditary title or an order of nobility in any foreign country? What does hereditary title mean? What does nobility mean?
Are you a habitual drunkard? Are you an alcoholic? Do you have any problems with drugs or alcohol? What is alcoholic? What does drunkard mean? Have you ever got a traffic ticket? Do you support the Constitution and form of government of the United States? What does Constitution mean? What is the form of the government of the U.S.?
Do you understand the full oath of allegiance to the United States? What does the oath of allegiance mean? Are you unable to take the oath of allegiance because of a physical or developmental disability or mental impairment? What does disability mean? What does impairment mean?
Are you willing to take the full oath of allegiance to the United States? If the law requires it, are you willing to bear arms on behalf of the United States? What does bear arms mean? If the law requires it, are you willing to perform non-combatant services in the U.S. Armed Forces? What do non-combatant services mean? Tell me what armed forces means. If the law requires it, are you willing to perform work of national importance under civilian direction? Do non-military work that the U.S. government says is important to the country. What does work of national importance mean? What does civilian direction mean? Give me some examples of work of national importance under civilian direction.